morning. I hope that everyone's having a great day so far and appreciate you all for joining in on this webinar. I am Hideyuki Terashima, and I am an environmental geologist with the Illinois State Water Survey, which is located at the University of Illinois. I've been part of the wateroperator.org program since 2014 and currently oversee the day-to-day, which involves ensuring that the most up-to-date information and resources are showcased within our website and occasionally hosting one of these webinars, sharing relevant and useful information for operators and utilities. During this presentation, I'll be introducing to you what the Water Operator program is, how it's a useful program slash resource that aims to help water and wastewater professionals around the country to help them improve compliance and enhance public health, while focusing on today's topic, lagoon wastewater system compliance. For our start, I wanted to quickly go over some housekeeping stuff. This webinar will be presented on the GoToWebinar platform. For those that have not used GoToWebinar before, you should see a console similar to what I have on this slide, the screenshot. There is a question section where you should be able to ask and type questions throughout the webinar. So please feel free to ask any questions if you have it, and at the end of the webinar, we'll be reviewing it. I believe the question section should look like a text box with a question mark in it. So if you can find it, get there, and you should be able to type a question. This webinar will also be recorded and will be uploaded to our wateropera.org YouTube channel once the webinar is over. This webinar has been pre-approved to provide 1.5 wastewater hours for Illinois and Indiana licensed operators. But for those of you from other states, we'll be more than happy to offer you a certificate of attendance or help you complete any kind of form required by your certification body to help you receive credits. I believe the webinar registration form asks whether you will be requiring a certificate or not. But if you are interested and did indicate so during your registration, please send us an email at info@wateropera.org requesting a certificate of attendance with the name of this webinar. So something like Lagoon webinar in the title or in the email text, just so we know which certificate to issue to you. Additionally, we'll not be able to offer any kind of certificate for watching the recording of this webinar once it's been published, but it will again be available on our YouTube channel to review once this webinar is over. And since I'll be referencing a lot of links, if you would like an actual copy of these slides, please don't hesitate to email us at info@waterup.org or at my personal email address, which will also at the very end of the webinar, requesting a copy of these slides, and I'll be more than happy to share it. So this will be the outline for today's presentation. I'll start off by introducing to you what kind of program or website wateropera.org is, and outline the type of resource or information operators can find through the tools our website offers to help you further your knowledge on water and wastewater management and compliance. I've given similar presentations in the past, but we've always focused on a specific area of wastewater compliance for these webinars. So it's for today, our focus again is on lagoon wastewater systems, where I'll be highlighting the unique compliance challenges a lot of these operators of these systems face when managing lagoons under the NPDES permit. Um, we'll begin with a quick review of lagoon wastewater systems and some of their most common compliance challenges associated with them, and things like seasonal variability, especially ammonia and nutrient control, as more nutrient requirements are getting more stringent. There's also algae management, algae control, sludge control, and just sampling and reporting issues where a lot of systems do get violations. So we'll be highlighting a bunch of those compliance issues. And these are challenges that many lagoon systems deal day to day, and they do often show up as permit exceedance, even if their systems are generally operating as designed. So it's really important to understand why these compliance issues happen and how to actually resolve those issues. So yeah, once I highlight those challenges, we'll look at some practical strategies lagoon operators can implement to troubleshoot some of those issues. And then I'll highlight some publicly available tools and resources designed to support lagoon systems to return back to compliance. And then walk you through how to find similar resources through wateropera.org. So, after this presentation, if you want to find more information or you're looking for actual or more targeted resource for your specific system, you'll be able to find some of those information through our website. And then I'll wrap up by introducing some of the other features our website offers, like our newsletters, our self-paced classes that does offer CEUs, and um, other features of our website. So by the end of this session, hopefully you'll know what our program is and also learn what kind of lagoon-focused compliance resources our readily available out there for anyone to use. What is wateropera.org? It's a website that we developed at the University of Illinois in collaboration with the Rural Community Assistant Partnership, or RCAP, with funding from US EPA. It serves as a clearinghouse of publicly available resource to help water and wastewater system operators with a focus on small systems. So we basically have a team of staff that search and scour the internet to find and collect any kind of publicly accessible resource or information that are useful to operators, and we provide a means to search and access the information easier through our website. So rather than having to sift through pages of search results on Google, we made a platform to search for relevant water and wastewater focused resources easier to save you time. Also, if you're Googling something and you might find a useful resource within your search results, but you might find out that it's behind a paywall or it requires a membership to that specific organization to be able to access. But everything on our website is free. We only collect information that is publicly accessible. I know there's a lot of great AWWA and WEF manuals and resources out there, but they do cost a lot of money. We try to find similar resource that covers similar information, but is publicly accessible information that's or resources that have been developed by a lot of agencies like EPA, EFCN that tend to be free. So that's what our goal is to, again, help operators find these publicly accessible information that they might not know actually exists. And if operators does have any problems finding certain information, they can always call us or email us as well, and we'll try to help them find specific information that they're looking for. Or we'll try to connect them with someone that's more technically inclined. Some of our technical assistant provider partners, we can always refer to them if you have some more technical questions that you need help with. So how do we find these resources, and what exactly do we look for? So we currently have a database of over 800 organizations. These are national organizations like EPA, AWWA, WEF, as well as individual state agencies, regional associations, rural water associations, and WAs, as well as even vendors. Essentially, each of our staff visits their websites routinely, looks for any information on training events, like operator trainings, webinars, conferences, pretty much any kind of event that offers CUs for operators. We collect that information. Even if they don't offer credits, if a training event is free and useful for operators, like many EPA webinars, we'll try to collect the information as well and try to feature it in our website. We also look for publicly available resources like fact sheets, reports, manuals, um, past conference presentation. Again, any kind of technical resource, documentation, tools like Excel spreadsheets that can be helpful for operators. Again, focusing on small systems, we try to find those and feature it on our website. We've been doing this since 2009, and we currently have a documents library of over 15,000 documents, and we do catalog close to 11, 12,000 events every year. So the website was actually first called smallwatersupply.org, but we actually rebranded to wateropera.org around 2016. We actually originally developed this website to help operators of rural communities where they might not have had the time to search for resources like this or find training events that fits their schedule. So we wanted to develop a platform where operators can come, find information about certain or help find targeted resources, help find training events happening around the country that'll fit their schedule, and find the information easier through our platform. So after we collect that information, those documents and events, we do display the information on our calendar and library tool within our website. So our nationwide event calendar tool is meant to help, again, operators save time from having to search through numerous training providers' websites and find all the relevant information on a single calendar. Similarly, we collect the most useful publicly available resource and display that information on our documents library. Both of those tools does use a extensive search function with a lot of filters. You can search by state, you can search by what kind of resource or event type are you looking for. So it's very extensive, and it's a really good way to, again, try to find information that you might know exists or stuff that doesn't regularly show up on Google search results. And first, for each entry that we provide, our tools provide, we do make sure to provide a complete summary of it with the most important details. So for documents, we'll make sure to provide a short summary of why this specific resource is useful for operators, where we found the information, how it's, again, relevant for operators, and any kind of pertinent information that an operator might want to actually decide that, oh, this is a resource that I would want to check out. And same for the event side, we make sure to provide all the relevant information, like who the training provider is, when the training's happening, where, uh, what's going to be discussed during the trainings, how many CUs is offered, if, whether there's a cost, membership cost or non-membership cost, just any information you might need to decide, oh yeah, this is a training event that fits my schedule, is relevant for me, does offer the right amount of credits I'm looking for, that would make you want to actually check that event out and actually register for it. In the past, we've heard from a lot of operators that found the nationwide calendar tool to be, a very useful tool to find events that I guess they didn't know existed. And we've gotten call and emails from operators saying like, hey, I need to get X number of credits by the end of the month. Can you help me find some online courses that I can take from my office? And we've guided them through the process as well. We've even had various vendors reach out to us asking to have their events featured on our website. But we do go through a vetting process. We want to make sure all the trainings that we add are pre-approved for operators, or again, is free and useful for operators. So we're not listing events that aren't necessarily relevant for operators, or won't be yet as useful because again, they may not offer credits and cost a lot of money. So we do go through the vetting process. We've even had uh, vendors can reach out to us saying, "Can you host this?" But if they aren't pre-approved, we'll tell them, "Hey, if you can get them pre-approved, we'll add them onto our calendar." And one good example that's kind of related to this webinar topic today is Triple Point Environmental. They are I know do a lot of trainings around the country for lagoon systems, but especially in Illinois, I know Illinois Rural Water Association features their on-demand training as well. But they reached out to us a couple of years ago asking, "Hey, can you feature some of our trainings on your website?" At the time, they weren't approved for Illinois, but since they reached out to us, they've gotten approved in Illinois, so we've started to host feature some of their live trainings as well. But again, uh, if you're in Illinois and you're looking for lagoon-based training, on-demand trainings, Triple Point Environmental does have a great set of on-demand training opportunities. And also, a lot of state privacy agencies list our website as a resource for their operators. So we really appreciate that, and we do have a lot of presence around the country. So as I mentioned earlier, we do deal with a wide range of topics, and every resource we do add is tagged with a specific category or filters that it gets integrated into our search engine. I just wanted to give you a brief overview of some of the topics that you can actually search for on our website. That's integrated within our filter. You can obviously search by any kind of unique keywords as well, but just to give you an idea, here is a breakdown of the categories based on the number, or the breakdown of the trainings uh, operator trainings that we've added in 2024 into our nationwide calendar, broken down into categories. So as you expected, O&M, certification prep, water treatment, wastewater treatment is the most dominant topics, but there are other more niche topics like nutrient control, biosolids, um, water reuse, total coliform, if you're looking for more wastewater focused topics. But since today is on lagoons, I will say that most of our lagoon focused resources are tagged with O&M, wastewater treatment, and nutrient control. So just wanted to show you some graphs on and kind of highlight the types of information we list. And for especially on the event side, I add a lot of events. So being able to see a breakdown like this can give you a general idea of what kind of trainings in the industry you're focusing on. Just wanted to highlight this very quickly. And I do also want to mention that there are a lot of free training opportunities out there. EPA, EFCN, RCAP, they do host webinars regularly that are free for operators. They may not necessarily offer credits, but a lot of states, privacy agencies would often accept those. And if you submit the the course for approval, so definitely check out some of their offerings and see if some of their free trainings might be applicable for your credit renewal. So during this presentation, I'll be highlighting a variety of public available resources designed to help lagoon systems address common compliance issues or challenges, and help them improve their day-to-day operations. So a lot of the materials I'll be covering today will focus on practical hands-on approaches, like how do you implement routine inspection to identify compliance issue, how to use effluent quality data to control processes to improve compliance, and just identifying what kind of capital improvement projects might be needed to avoid non-compliance if day-to-day operational changes aren't really sufficient to meet new effluent limits. We'll review a mix of resource types, including guides, webinar recordings, best practice manuals, case studies, and various reports developed by experts in the field. We'll also look at how to search for lagoon-focused training opportunities that offer CUs, which can help operators again maintain their license while staying current on best practices. And all these materials that I'll be covering today, they're going to come from trusted and credible organizations. Many of the resources that I'll be highlighting today will come from EPA, as they're the federal agency that usually governs the lagoon system and provides does a lot of research, provides funding, and highlights some of their work. So EPA has a lot of great resource focused on lagoon systems, um, especially since they implemented their Lagoon Action Plan that started in 2022, and I believe it's supposed to go to 2026. They've put a lot more effort into Lagoon system compliance, so they have a lot of great resources that they've developed through that. But other state agencies, technical assistance providers like RCAP, EFCN, and Triple Points Lagoon University, they all have great publicly accessible information as well, which I'll be highlighting some and definitely recommend checking later if you're looking for more information. So the reason I chose wastewater lagoon compliance as our focus for today is because we're seeing more and more news articles like the ones shown on the slide highlighting incidents where lagoon systems are are receiving violations due to effluent exceedances. Maybe because of surface water conditions, surface water impacts, or maybe they receive violations because they couldn't implement expensive upgrades. So it's compliance issues don't just result in enforcement action. They often lead to significant financial consequences as well. If systems need new treatment systems, that's going to be expensive. If they do get a violation, that's going to cause fines. You might need to do emergency repairs and just implement major capital investments that a lot of small and rural systems will struggle to do. So it's definitely important to make sure that your system is in compliance, so you don't have to deal with a lot of these issues. The article on the right is a good example of this, where a community is facing expensive lagoon system upgrades to meet nutrient standards. But situations like these are becoming a lot more common as permits become more stringent, or nutrients and regulators increase oversight for lagoon discharges. So again, it is important to make sure that your system tries to stay compliant, and try to implement some of those low cost, no cost solutions that might be able to help steer your system back to compliance. So yeah, the purpose of today's presentation is not to focus on these challenges as unavoidable problems, but rather to show how public available tools, guidance, and training resources can help lagoon operators identify some of these compliance issues early, improve their day-to-day operations, and again reduce the risk of non-compliance before it becomes an enforcement or result in costly upgrades. So to start off, I wanted to provide some basic information on lagoon systems and some interesting statistics gathered by EPA that will probably feel more familiar to a lot of you that are in the audience. So, very briefly, lagoon systems are earth and pond-based treatment systems. They're also often called as stabilization ponds or stabilization lagoons, but they essentially rely on natural biological processes to treat municipal wastewater. It could be industrial wastewater too. There are some domestic systems that are managed by the residents, but today we're focusing on municipal systems. So these are commonly used in smaller and rural communities because they tend to have lower capital costs, operating costs, and compared to mechanical plants, they're much simpler to operate and to maintain. According to EPA, there's about 4,600 publicly or semi-publicly owned lagoon systems across the country, which results to about a quarter of all publicly owned treatment works. So there are still a decent amount of lagoon systems out there. They're found in 46 states, with high concentrations of them in the Midwest, including states like Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, North Dakota, and Missouri. Most lagoon systems serve very small communities where the median population served is around 800 people, and where the median design flow is about 0.12 million MGD. So more than 90% of these systems operate under 1 MGD per day. 1 MGD. So these systems really are more intended for if you have limited staff, if you have limited budget, and maybe you have part-time operators that have other responsibilities and they can't be at a plant 24/7. Lagoon systems are generally great for systems like that, and especially in small and rural communities. EPA data also shows where challenges tend to show up. So about 18% of the lagoon systems have been significant non-compliance, and over 16% had at least one effluent limit exceedance between 2019 and 2022. And the most common issues that the report highlights is, exceedances for BOD, TSS, total suspended solids, fecal indicator bacteria like E. coli, pH, and ammonia. But for more detailed statistics, please check out the EPA Universe of Lagoon report, which I do have linked on the bottom of this slide. So, although there is a decent amount of systems in significant noncompliance, many of these exceedances experienced by lagoon systems can be managed through no-cost, low-cost solutions, and those are the types of strategies and resources I hope to share during this presentation. So now that we know how common wastewater lagoons are, let's review the main types of lagoon systems you'll see in operation, as the type of lagoon you operate does have an impact on both performance and some of those compliance challenges experience/needs. So the first type is aerated lagoons. These are systems that use either mechanical or surface aerators or submerged diffusers to actively add oxygen to the lagoon system. Aerobic bacteria then use that oxygen produced to stabilize organic matter and reduce BOD, and deeper anaerobic bacteria break down the settled solids. So because you're supplying oxygen, aerated lagoons can handle higher organic loads. They usually operate with shorter detention time and require smaller footprints since you don't need to store that wastewater for that long. They are often used to meet stricter ammonia limits as oxygen is essential for the nitrification process to remove ammonia. Um, the trade-off is that they do require a lot more energy and maintenance to manage, and compliance issues can quickly show up if your aerator malfunctions or you need to do repair and you need to shut down your system. The next type is facultative lagoons. So these are much more common in smaller systems. These lagoons rely mostly on natural processes, wind mixing and algae photosynthesis to provide dissolved oxygen into the system. You typically see distinct layers form in these type of systems where you have your aerobic layer at the top, a middle facultative zone, and an anaerobic layer at the bottom. So facultative lagoons generally have lower energy costs, but they do require more surface area and longer detention times because again, you're not using aerators to inject oxygen. You're relying on algae to produce that oxygen. So if you're it's because of that there tend to be a lot more detention time. You need a lot more surface area to store that wastewater. So it's great for rural areas where you have a lot more land space. But especially if you have less staff that can be used to manage these systems. But they do experience a lot more um, influence by weather and seasonal conditions, and especially in the summertime, algae overgrowth can result in total suspended solid exceedances, and in the winter, the cold weather can stall some of the biological activity needed to break down waste. So um, it's definitely important to identify which system is more appropriate for geographically where you're located, as well as the amount of wastewater you'll need to be treating. And the last type is anaerobic lagoons. So these operate without oxygen. They rely on anaerobic bacteria to break down waste. They're more common in industrial facilities or to treat industrial wastewater as a first treatment step for a lot of these lagoon systems. You might not have one lagoon, you might have multiple lagoons. So which I do have featured on this slide. So lagoon system layout and is important because the way that ponds are configured can have a big impact on system performance as well as maintenance and the compliance issues that might show up. So some lagoon systems might be a single pond system where all treatment, where settling, digestion, and wastewater polishing takes place in a single cell. These systems are typically less expensive to build, and they work well for very small communities that with low flows and plenty of available land. But again, single pond systems are more vulnerable to short circuiting, where basically wastewater influent goes straight to the discharge point because or before it's been fully treated, and that could happen because you might have a lot of wet weather flow, or you might have sludge buildup that isn't letting the wastewater to stay within the pond enough to be able to go become fully treated. But it's bad once that untreated wastewater is discharged. It is a permanent violation. So short circuiting is a big compliance issue for a lot of these single pond systems. Um, so maintenance tasks like dredging or liner repairs can also be more challenging for these single pond systems because if you only have a single pond, you can't really divert some of that wastewater to a different pond if you need to do maintenance. So maintenance issues can be, or maintenance costs can be expensive for these type of systems, but again, they're much more simpler to manage. On the other side, other systems might be using multi-pond or multi-cell configuration where wastewater moves through a series of lagoons, often a primary, secondary, and then a final polishing pond. This setup forces wastewater to stay in the system longer. It maximizes detention time, which generally leads to more or improved solids removal and stable effluent quality. So this configuration gives operators more flexibility with O&M. As if you need to do repairs, one of those ponds can be bypassed, isolated, or drained for maintenance without shutting down the whole plant. So, because of these benefits, adding an additional cell is often one of the first steps or first upgrades considered by single pond systems that struggle with BOD or TSS limits. So it might be a good consideration if you're a single pod system and if you want to consider adding a secondary or a polishing pond to your system. So understanding these pond layouts can again help you determine if compliance issues with biological problems is going to be a problem, whether you can fix those issues with chemicals or adding aeration, or maybe it's just there you might have a structural problem that might need a layout change. So definitely understanding which configuration is best for your system is crucial to maintaining your system. Now let's take a closer look at some of the basic compliance requirements Lagoon systems typically operate under, because many compliance issues again don't come from major failures; they come from sometimes misunderstandings or small mistakes related to permits, samplings, or reporting. So starting with effluent limits, most lagoons fall under the equivalent to secondary standards. These are often less stringent than mechanical plants requirements because to account for natural fluctuations in lagoon environments, and because again you probably don't have a operator there 24/7 managing your system. So, but typically you're looking at a 30-day average for BOD between 25 and 45 mg per liter, and TSS between 37 and 120 milligrams per liter, with a 65% to 85% removal rate. This will depend on your specific permit. Some states will have more stringent requirements. Some state might have more lenient requirements, but it's best to actually look at your permit and figure out what your requirements are. Your pH also should be between 6 and 9. And depending on your, again, specific permit, you might have additional limits for ammonia, fecal coliform, or DO. So again, definitely it's important to check your permit. Um, and it's vital to remember that if you do discharge to a impaired waterway, that can significantly increase your or that can increase make your effluent requirements more stringent because the NPDS permit will be more stricter for those systems that are discharging into more sensitive water bodies or impaired waterways. Next are monitoring requirements. Samples must be taken at the specific location that's listed on their permit, usually at the final effluent. And permits may require either using grab samples or composite samples for BOD and TSS. Again, look at your permit; it will say which or permit requirements. It will say which sample types are required per state. Sampling frequency also can vary, but many lagoon systems are typically required to sample once per or twice per month. For seasonal discharge systems, sampling is often required anytime discharge happens, and missing a required sample can count as an exceedance as well. So it's definitely important to understand what your sampling schedule is or what your sampling requirements are, and you're following a sampling schedule that is compliant with your specific system. Then there's the discharge monitoring report requirements or DMR requirements. All required monitoring parameters must be reported during each month reporting period, um, typically monthly. Even if there's no discharge, measured values of those parameters must be reported accurately, and any exceedance must be documented in your DMR. So understanding these requirements and how they apply to specifically your permit and your system is crucial for staying in compliance. Now I want to look through some of the most common compliance challenges lagoon water systems face. So starting with effluent challenges, EPA data consistently show that most common exceedances for lagoon systems are BOD and TSS, with about 70% of those systems with exceedance seeing BOD issues and about 60% seeing TSS issues. Exceedance for fecal coliform, pH, and ammonia are also common. But one important thing to keep in mind is that many traditional facultative lagoons were never designed to meet today's more stringent nitrogen or phosphorus limits. So when those limits appear in permits, operators may be doing everything right operationally, but because of those limits, they could be limited to being able to meet those newer, stricter future limits because of how their facility was originally designed. Um, Seasonal and cold weather challenges are another major factor challenge. Lagoon performance is highly sensitive to temperature, availability of sunlight, hydraulics, as well as detention time. So as temperature drops, usually biological activity slows down, which can reduce BOD removal and might make nitrification more difficult or impossible during certain times of the year. So these season effects are a frequent driver of winter or springtime compliance issues. Sludge management is another long-term challenge. When sludge accumulates and isn't managed properly or proactively, it does reduce or it reduces effective lagoon volume. It does interfere with solid settling, shortens detention time, and can increase the risk of TSS violations. Algae growth, while part of the treatment process, can also contribute to elevated TSS and pH swings if not managed, as they do add a large amount of suspended biological solids that don't settle easily, leading to the appearance of poor solid removal, even though the system is actually biologically active. Um, Algae is will be counted as a suspended solid if you're sampling. So you want to make sure that if you're sampling for TSS, you're not sampling, or you want to find a portion of your lagoon where algae activity isn't that active, so you're not getting this improper TSS reading. And finally, administrative compliance issues account for a lot of violations. So, missed or late samples, incomplete or late DMR submittals, or simple reporting errors can result in non-compliance, even if your effluent quality itself is perfectly fine. So, many of these compliance challenges are usually the result of system design limits, environmental conditions, or administrative burden. So, not operator neglect. So, targeted operator strategies can help address these issues. So now that we talked about where lagoon compliance challenges tend to come from, let's highlight some of those practical, realistic steps operators can take to move towards or maintain compliance while focusing on some of those fundamentals. So for the first step is to improving your compliance is to understand your permit again and your current compliance status. So this starts with regularly reviewing your NPDES permits, so you're clear on your effluent limits. Understand your monitoring requirements and reporting deadlines. If you want to, it's great to look at your past DMR reports or DMRs as well to look at how your facility has performed in the past. You can also use tools like EPA's ECHO database or state compliance report can also be helpful for seeing whether there are recurring violations or compliance issues that is specific to your system that show up over time. So when you're prioritizing area to improve, it's usually more productive to focus on those repeat exceedances or repeat issues violations rather than a one-time event that might be caused because of a random weather event that or something that was unavoidable. The second step is to strengthen your operation and maintenance practices. So this means paying attention to common lagoon risks, lagoon problems like short circuiting, inadequate detention time, or excessive algae growth. Seasonal adjustments are also critical. What kind of a process that might work in the summer may not work the same in the winter time. Making small operational changes ahead of those cold weather periods, or if you know that there's a huge rainstorm or rain event coming, can help you prepare or plan your system to prevent some of those compliance issues that might happen because of those weather related events. The third step is to improve monitoring, sampling, and reporting. So confirm that the samples you're collecting is collected at the appropriate location, um, at the right frequency, and that you're using the correct method to collect those samples. Many of these administrative violations can be avoided by setting up a simple internal system for like a sampling calendar or sampling data review or a routine data review of your sampling data, and just having a calendar reminder on your DMR is due this or is due soon. Make sure you're preparing it or developing it can help you stay organized and keep you on schedule. Or even better, consider having a written standard operating procedure for sampling. Can help you ensure that even if the you know if your primary operator is sick, um, maybe if you have a secondary operator or someone that also works with you, they can follow the same procedure to collect the sample correctly and at the right spot, and they're handled appropriately to the laboratory. The fourth step is to evaluate sludge and solids management. Over time, sludge accumulation can reduce effective treatment volume and detention time, which can directly impact BOD and TSS readings performance. So measuring and tracking sludge depth on a regular basis can give you a better idea of how much treatment capacity you actually have. Performing routine or even an annual sludge survey or sludge judge can help you map out your sludge accumulation and see exactly where you're losing some of those critical detention time within your lagoon. So the goal is to move away from reactive desludging, where you only do that when violations happen, and you towards a more planned desludging schedule that supports consistent performance. The fifth step is to implement incremental system improvements when needed. Systems compliance doesn't require full plant replacement. You can do some targeted upgrades that can bring you significant differences. So this might include adding or reconfiguring lagoon cells, maybe installing baffles or flow controls to reduce some of those short circuiting risks, or adding aeration as again a polishing step to improve effluent quality. But focusing on right sizing improvements instead of large capital projects all at once projects can help manage costs better and reduce operational disruptions. And the final step is to seek technical and financial assistance early. So, one of the biggest mistakes we see a lot of these communities face is that they wait till the very last minute when violations happen before they reach out to some of these technical assistance providers. EPA agencies generally encourage systems to ask for help before some of these enforcement escalates. So, early outreach with TAPs or funding programs can bring you better funding outcomes, can help you with more regulatory flexibility, and um, lead to lower long-term costs. So these steps taken together can help reinforce some of those compliance issues, and help you um, reduce some of those violations that might happen, as well as avoiding fines that will be incurred because of those violations. So it's all about using the support system available to help you make informed, proactive decisions that is best for your facility. So I mentioned some strategies already, but the next few slides are going to highlight some of those more specific actionable steps that operators can take to improve those lagoon compliance on a day-to-day basis. So these are changes that don't necessarily require major capital projects, but can be implemented within your existing system. So the first area of focus is on operational practices that directly impact effluent quality. One of the most common issues in lagoon system is again short circuiting, where wastewater moves too quickly from an inlet to outlet. So keeping your baffles intact and maintaining your inlet outlet structure is critical. If your system has adjustable weirs, or you can use them to strategically manage your flow path to significantly maximize your contact time. The bacteria needs to do their work. You can also manage detention time during wet weather events. Avoiding over discharging during high flow periods and coordinating discharge timing when seasonal permits allow can help maintain some of the treatment effectiveness and reduce the risks of effluent exceedances. Pond depth management also matters. Regularly checking staff gauges helps ensure lagoons are operating at the design depth, maintaining treatment capacity while still preserving adequate space for wet weather flows or as well as storm events. Seasonal adjustments are just as important. Cold weather can significantly reduce biological activity, so maximizing storage before freeze up and avoiding unnecessary drawdowns during winter can help limit cold weather discharges, which can be poorly treated and lead to effluent exceedances. Alternatively, during the warmer months, it's important to closely monitor for ammonia, DO, as well as pH. A higher temperature can increase ammonia toxicity and increase algae activity, which can cause afternoon pH spikes that can lead to permanent violations if you're sampling for pH later in the afternoon. And paying attention to, just in general, paying attention to all these operational details and adjusting based on some of those seasonal conditions, as well as current conditions, can make significant differences in lagoon performance and compliance. Another area where you can make a real difference is in long-term compliance is just basic site maintenance. This might sound like routine landscaping tasks, but they are actually one of the first line of defense against catastrophic structural failure. But it's good to routinely walk around your system just to inspect um, your berm and levee integrity. So regularly walking around the entire lagoon perimeter, um, looking for any kind of signs of slumping, cracking, or erosion, especially for wet spots on the dry side of the berm, can help you identify whether there's some seepage or there's a leak that's developing, and catching that early on can prevent some of that liner failure or structural damage that might be caused if these issues are ignored. You can even consider using drones, survey some of those area the amount of vegetation growth, some of the signs of erosion, or even use tools like LiDAR to again better get an accurate image of your current lagoon status. Uh, Rodent control is another important maintenance issue. Animals like muskrats and groundhogs tend to burrow right at the waterline, and they can tunnel through a levee surprisingly quickly, sometimes in a single season. So these burrows can create pathways for leaks and can eventually lead to bank instability and collapse, which again is a huge issue. So proactive trapping or rodent control program is a low-cost way to avoid some of those high-cost repairs. And vegetation control is another routine tasks that should be implemented along with berm and levee integrity inspections. While grass coverage is important for erosion and erosion control, some of those woody vegetation like willows, cottonwoods, and shrubs should be removed as soon as they repair because some of those tree roots can penetrate clay or synthetic liners, creating head and leak paths that will be difficult to identify and expensive to fix once they do develop. Dense vegetation can also hide burrow holes or structural issues during inspection. So just making sure those are clear is a good way for improving inspections. And again, too much vegetation can also block sunlight, which does hinder some of those processes that, like the algae needs photosynthesis to be effective. If you don't have enough sunlight hitting your system, that can cause issues. So making sure that you're keeping your vegetation under control can definitely benefit your system. Continuing with site maintenance, the next step of actions that you can take that's often overlooked is just making sure you're inspecting surface conditions of the pond and checking for inflow and infiltration in the collection system. So first, checking for surface scum and floating debris is a great practice. Over time, lagoons can develop floating island of grease, duckweed, or trash, and not not only are they an eyesore, but they can be a physical barrier that blocks sunlight or prevent air-driven aeration. So using a skimmer or a long-handled net to remove some of these material is simple, but it's a vital step to maintain oxygen transfer and sunlight penetration in your system. If you do let these block some of these floating debris to build up, it does push your system more into an anaerobic condition, which can trigger odor or treatment disruption that can eventually end up as a compliance issue. Infiltration and inflow control, that's another important issue for lagoon systems because excess flow over time can overwhelm detention time, and excess stormwater can cause hydraulic overloading or short circuiting, which again can lead to permit violations. So tracking dry weather versus wet weather flows is one of the simple ways to identify whether there is a potential I&I risk. If flows spike or influent strength becomes diluted during rain events, that's often a sign that there is stormwater entering the collection system. So operators should or operators can also pay close attention to lagoon water levels during large rain events. So a rapid or unexpected rises in water level can again reduce available storage and force discharges before adequate treatment happens. So managing lagoon levels ahead of time before forecasted storms can help preserve some of that treatment capacity. And on the collection system side, inspecting manhole covers is a in low lying areas and replacing some of those replacing them with solid covers with watertight ones can significantly reduce inflow. And improving surface grading around manholes and sewer lines can also divert some of that runoff. And lift stations should be inspected regularly for any kind of leaking wet wells that can be directly adding more water into your collection system. So controlling some of the debris buildup and reducing unnecessary inflow does protect detention time and treatment stability at a relatively low cost. The next area I want to focus on is on routine or daily or even weekly tasks that operators can implement. These are some of those um, daily tasks that can have a big role in preventing some of those compliance issues. So one important routine task is flow meter inspection and verification. Make sure the area around your flumes, weirs, or ultrasonic meters are clear debris to ensure that you're getting accurate flow readings. Inaccurate flow data can mess up with calculating with loading calculations as well as DMR reporting and BOD concentrations. So a small issue at the meter can create bigger problems downstreams. You should also regularly clean your inlet and outlets, removing ragging or in your bar screens, and debris from outlet weirs can help maintain proper hydraulics. If you have a clogged outlet weir, that can intentionally raise water levels, that can result in short circuiting. So you want to make sure that all those that there's no the everything all the wastewater is flowing smoothly. Um, and routine odor and color inspections of your pond is a great way as a early warning to find early warning signs. Um, Noting, checking out the pond color. If it's healthy, it should be a deep green color, or if it's unhealthy, it should be shifting to like a dull gray or black pond color. So looking at your pond color can tell you what's happening biologically. A black or gray ponds generally indicates that a pond is overloading or turning anaerobic. And if you have more persistent odor issues downstream, that can tell you that there's some issues with your system. And this one is small, but just making sure your system is secure. So doing routine fence and gate security is a great safety and compliant. It is a great way to improve safety as well as compliance. Operators should regularly check for cut wires, open gates, or just sign of digging from intruders. Lagoons are a drowning hazard, and maintaining secure access to these areas can help prevent accidents and unwanted site visits that could create liability issues. Next area I wanted to touch on is algae management, since algae plays a critical role in lagoon treatment. That they do produce the oxygen needed for photosynthesis, which supports the bacteria responsible for BOD removal. So problems tend to show up when algae levels get too high or too low. If you have insufficient algae, DO levels can drop as algae is not producing as much. BOD removal becomes less effective, and pond can slip into anaerobic conditions. This is when you'll start to notice odor, some of the darker pond colors, and declining performance. Um, Operators can uh, reduce this issue by focusing on maintaining proper pond depth, restoring retention time, and just avoiding unnecessary drawdowns to give algae a chance to recover. But on the flip side, if you have excessive algae growth that can cause compliance, that can also cause compliance issues. Too much algae can drive TSS as more algae swirling around. It can also cause some of those pH swings during the in the afternoon, as you have more algae, it's producing excessive CO2 that can lead to um, conditions that are great that reduces the performance of your system, and it can lead to algae washout during discharge events. So by making sure that you are adjusting discharge timing when possible, managing pond depth and hydraulics, and is removing flowing algal mass that can be contributing to increased algae is a great way to make sure that you're maintaining the correct level of algae. The next area I want to focus on is sludge management because sludge accumulation is one of the more common drivers of long-term lagoon compliance problems. So, as sludge builds up, it reduces effective treatment volumes for a lagoon. If even if your influent flows haven't increased, just losing volume shortens your detention time. That can mean that wastewater isn't being treated appropriately. So, poor sludge management is a frequent cause of those TSS exceedances, BOD carryover, and odor issues caused by anaerobic conditions. So making sure that you're managing your sludge depth is crucial. Um, One of the most important thing that operators can do is regularly measuring and tracking your sludge depth using, again, a sludge judge or similar tool. Comparing current sludge depth to original system design and to past management can identify trends before capacity loss might happen. Operators should also look for signs for sludge depth approaching the outlet structure or sludges increasing around the inlet or outlet structures, because pond water shifting from green to brown or gray can show you signs that there is something wrong with your sludge. So if sludge accumulation is observed, operators can, if you're able to, you can shift to a parallel cell if you have one, to divert some of that flow to um, keep solids mixed and limit some of the anaerobic conditions from happening. Or if you don't have that, you can also create a sludge map by taking measurements at multiple locations at the pond, to get a better idea of where those sludge is accumulating to have some targeted sludge, or targeted desludging projects, because desludging is expensive. If you know which areas you have to desludge, that can limit the amount of cost that you might incur for desalting projects. So having some of this sludge like the one I have shown on the slide can again help you better maintain your system. And the next compliance issue that I want to touch on is nutrient control. So nitrogen, often measured as ammonia, as well as phosphorus exceedance, is a huge concern because they can lead to harmful algal blooms in receiving waters if they aren't removed appropriately. Um, One of the again main challenges is some of those traditional facultative lagoons. They're never designed for nutrient removal, so it's very difficult to do. And nutrient performance is highly variable and strongly influenced by detention time, temperature, and operational conditions as well. So when detention time is low, nutrient removal performance often will decline. Seasonal impacts can also play a big role. Cold temperatures does slow ammonia conversion, making slowing down nitrification processes. At the same time, excessive algae can recycle nutrients back into the water during the summer periods, which can spike your nutrient level within your system. There are some new operational controls that can help reduce some of these issues. So managing sludge buildup and preserving detention time is the primary step. Systems can also operate ponds in series rather than in parallel if possible, which can help some stage treatment and improve nutrient uptake. And supplemental aeration can also provide some of the DO needed to support nitrification. Systems can also limit nutrient washout by using adding baffles to reduce short circuiting and adjusting discharge time to avoid peak algal activity. Or on the collection side, controlling I&I prevents hydraulic surges and that can flush ammonia out of the system prematurely. And even simple steps like removing vegetation and organic debris from pond and berms can help reduce nutrient recycling. And if permits allow, lagoons use chemical can implement chemical feed of lime, salts, aluminum, or iron that can help precipitate phosphorus out. But before you do that, operators should do a sludge survey to make sure that that's effective and make sure with your permit that that is allowed. So, very quickly, some of those operational changes, so if those operational changes aren't enough to meet some of those issues, compliance issues you're having, and you do have to do a capital improvement project, here are some suggestions. One of the most cost-effective strategy is um, improving how water moves throughout the lagoon. So, upgrading your inlet and outlet structures, adding adjustable weirs, or internal berms can help address some of that short circuiting and improvement treatment performance. Um, Another major area is structural integrity, so fixing leaks, seepage, erosion, and liner repairs, stabilizing berms, or even adding ripraps can help protect treatment capacity. Sludge removal and solids handling upgrades, so partial desludging or dredging or dedicated sludge storage tanks can improve detention time and manage sludge better. For systems with fecal coliform issues, upgrades like UV disinfection, chlorine contact tanks, or adding a polishing pond can be appropriate. Improving monitoring sampling, such as upgrading to digital flow meters, adding safer sampling platforms, or remotely monitoring lagoon levels with SCADA can improve with compliance monitoring, especially if you're limited on staff. And some systems might benefit from additional or hybrid treatment, like adding submerged attached growth reactors, mechanical aeration, or downstream polishing processes like closed disc filters, MBBRs, or construction wetlands. These are more expensive, but there are a lot more systems doing this now as a secondary treatment step to, again, make sure that you're meeting those nutrient limits or avoiding effluent exceedances. So what if you need help planning some of those projects, or you do need financial assistance? The good news is that there are a number of national and state programs specifically designed to support wastewater systems like lagoons, especially for small and rural systems. So, starting with technical assistance, EPA's Rural Water TA, this is one of their newer technical assistance programs, can help utilities evaluate some of these compliance challenges. They will help you plan infrastructure or rehabs projects and even upgrades, and can help you navigate some of that funding applications process at no cost. So this is a great TA program if you don't know where to start and you're looking for just to get some of that conversation going and getting expert guidance on resolving some of those uh, compliance challenges. I do have a link. Well, there are three links on the bottom. The very top one includes an EPA fact sheet on the Raw Water TA program. It tells you a little bit more information where to go to actually submit a request. So definitely, if you're interested in the Raw Water TA program, check out that fact sheet. Organizations like RCAP also and their regional offices also provides hands-on help with operational improvements, as well as asset management planning, doing rate studies, and funding support. GLCAP is the RCAP region for states, including Illinois. But if you're in a rural community and you want technical assistance from RCAP, definitely check out some of the RCAP regions offices, or reach out to RCAP's main office to get in contact with one of their technical assistance providers. Similarly, the National Rural Water Association has the Circuit Rider program, which offers peer-to-peer on-site troubleshooting for many small and rural systems. Um, you can find the links to these, again, TA programs on the bottom of this slide. On the funding side, the Clean Water State Revolving Fund offers low interest loans and, in many cases, principal forgiveness for wastewater projects, including lagoon upgrades. So for lagoon systems serving tribal communities, the Clean Water Indian Set Aside program also is available to provide dedicated funding. USDA also has a long-term loan and grants program specifically for rural communities that's serving under 10,000 people through their water and waste disposal loan and grant program. Or you can also look for state SRF programs like Illinois EPA's Water Pollution Control Loan Program, which offers affordable financing options. So there are a lot of technical assistance and financial support opportunities out there that I do highly recommend checking out. A lot of these are no cost, especially on the TA side. Just reach out to these guys and they will help you with your system. They want to help you get back to to compliance. So definitely, if you need support, don't hesitate to reach out to some of these programs. But if you're interested in exploring some of these compliance challenges yourself, I will now highlight some of those compliance resources that can help you address some of those issues, as well as highlight some of the information I covered earlier. So starting off, I have here listed 2 EPA tools that were developed recently to help communities that rely on lagoon systems and local decision makers to effectively and efficiently protect public health and environment. The first one is the First Stop Toolbox for Lagoons. This is a browser-based compliance assistant tool to help lagoon system operators that are struggling with meeting nutrient limits, or for systems that simply just want to improve overall operations, to find technical, financial, and regulatory support resources. So essentially, the tool walks operators through a series of straightforward questions focused on operation maintenance, funding, regulatory consideration, and based on those responses, it curates for you a targeted list of resources tailored to each um, user. And it links you to EPA as well as partner resources that can help address some of those specific challenges a lagoon system is facing. So if you're having issues with nutrient control, it will give you EPA and partners specific nutrient control resources. So it's just an easier way to find some of that, which resource might be best for the problems you're having. eBay does also have a 1 hour webinar that kind of demonstrates how the tool is used, as well as using example Lagoon scenarios, which is a great way to see how this tool can be applied for your own system and help you find the best resource that might help address some of the issues you're experiencing. The next EPA tool I have listed here is another recent one, but it is the Small Lagoon Community Economic Streamlining tool, and the Individual Lagoon tool. So these tools are more meant for states and tribes, but the streamlining tool can help you evaluate whether installing ammonia control strategies across multiple lagoon systems can result in a widespread economic or social hardship without a water quality standard variance. So it's a simple Excel-based tool that only requires basic information like population serves for each lagoon system, as well as the lagoon system design flow. And the tool will pull information from census data to evaluate whether a specific community or specific list of lagoon systems will be financially burdened because of ammonia, or because of nutrient or specifically ammonia limits, and it'll kind of guide you to like, oh, I do need a water quality standard variance for ammonia because this will cause too much burden within our community. Um, but for a specific system, the individual lagoon tool is another tool that does the same system, but same process, but just for a single system. It is browser based. It's a little bit more straightforward to use, um, and can help you evaluate your total capital cost for installing lagoon replacements or modification to meet those new ammonia limits as well. So it can help you evaluate the costs that you'll need to meet those new ammonia limits, as well as help you determine, oh, this is too expensive. My community can't afford something like this. I need a ammonia WS variant. So if you're having ammonia issues, these tools can help you decide whether you should have a variance for your permit. Another useful EPA resource is the Compliance Tips for Small Wastewater Treatment Lagoons with Clean Water Act Discharge Permit Guide. So it's a 15-page guide, but it's designed specifically for lagoon systems. It walks you through common causes of effluent violations and operator noncompliance, and it lists practical tips to address each of those issues. So the majority of the guide is the Lagoon Compliance Quick Reference Guide, which includes a bunch of tables summarizing, different lagoon types, common causes of lagoon issues, malfunction, as well as troubleshooting steps for effluent violations. So if you know a specific issue, like your system is experiencing short circuiting a lot, operators can use this quick reference guide to go straight to the section on short circuiting and find recommended troubleshooting steps. Um, uh, Especially for short circuiting, they'll recommend stuff like adding small floating objects to observe the flow paths they take and how long it takes to move from the effluent to troubleshoot if, again, short circuiting is happening. And if it is, then it recommends potential solutions like installing baffles or curtains, or other solutions. So it's a fairly simple and approachable field guide that can be used by operators to address some of those influent issues that they might be experiencing. But if you want something shorter, EPA does have a wastewater lagoons wastewater tip sheet, which is a 3-page fact sheet that outlines some of those permit requirements and presents practical, actionable actions operators can take to avoid non-compliance. So if you need help understanding your permit requirements, this is a great resource to compare those requirements and what actions can help comply with those requirements. Especially what makes this fact sheet useful is on the first page, it includes an inspection checklist, which lays out, some of those daily, weekly, or monthly, and even annual inspection tasks, which can, as along with some of those common processes monitoring parameters. It helps you understand what those numbers tell operators about lagoon performance. So it's a great way to, again, get an idea of what to look for, how to better understand your lagoon's operating parameters, and just how to correlate that to potential issues that might be happening with your law, or yeah, potential issues that's causing your lagoon to perform poorly. It also includes guidance on sampling reporting and DMR submission, so best practices. So it's a great short resource that includes a lot of those comprehensive requirements that you can go through and check out to refresh yourself, or to use daily to, again, use the inspection form to do your routine inspection. But another helpful resource to understand some of those compliance requirements for lagoon discharge is from Michigan Eagle, which is their primacy agency. But they have a compliance tips for lagoon facilities guide as well. It's 5-page guide that provides, again, a practical guidance on discharge planning, sampling requirements, and just compliance during lagoon discharges. It walks you through like a step-by-step process for discharge sampling. It helps you understand how to sample and preserve those samples, what's the correct amount of holding times, what's the right sampling frequency, and what kind of sample you should be collecting. It's written by Michigan, but the standards are it's more national, or the information included is more nationally relevant, or because it highlights some of those federally required sampling and monitoring requirements. So it's a great guide, again, for if you're ready to discharge and you're not, you want to make sure you're following the right compliance issues or compliance processes. This is a great shorter document that you can check out to refresh yourself. Eagle also published a Lagoon Systems Frequently Asked Questions document, which is a 10-page guide that answers some of the more common questions lagoon operators have about sampling, monitoring, and other day-to-day tasks that falls under the NPDES permit. So if you have a lot of questions, this might be a great document to kind of find whether someone asked a similar question, and kind of figure out what are the appropriate steps for addressing some of those questions asked. For a more conventional, lengthier troubleshooting manual, I do recommend EPA's troubleshooting manual for small facultative partial mixed aerated and compliance mixed aerated wastewater lagoons. It's a 49-page guide designed for situations where operators know something isn't working with their system and they need help figuring out what to do next, or like a troubleshooting guide. But it lists the manual lists a bunch of common upset conditions reported by lagoon systems, and provides recommended operational monitoring and engineering solutions. It helps. It also includes guidance on setting standard operating parameters, which can help operators develop a baseline of their systems to make it easier to identify when your system might be going out of non-compliance. And it provides more information compared to the previous compliance fact sheets that I highlighted earlier. It includes a lot more diagrams, a lot more graphics, so it makes it a great resource for operators with less experience having to deal with some of these troubleshooting issues. Um, and I do, if you're more of a video centric person and you want to prepare for some of these future compliance issues, I do recommend checking out ESPN's webinar recording on diagnosing wastewater lagoon problems. It's a 1 hour webinar recording, but it focuses on how lagoon systems function, how operators can diagnose common lagoon performance problems, and uh, how you can um, manage lagoon biology as well as operating conditions to make sure that your lagoon is performing well and that your monitoring parameters reported on the DMR is at compliance. It also walks through common issues like sludge accumulation, short circuiting, and just a bunch of issues that can happen. And it provides the speakers provide great way to or solutions for managing those issues. So again, if you don't have any issues happening right now, but you just want to educate yourself, this is a great webinar to just understand some of those issues that might happen and how you can start planning to make sure you're how to plan to address these issues when they happen. For more long-term compliance, RCAP also has a webinar recording that covers some of the most common lagoon maintenance issues operators see in the field, and helps you understand why they happen and what you can do to manage those. Um, it's another 1 hour long webinar, but it covers practical challenges like odors, sludge buildup, how to control algae, seasonal performance changes, how to deal with wildlife, and even emerging issues like PFAS, using real examples from small communities across the country. So it's a great way for it's a great tool that highlights proactive inspection, um, using simple operational cut controls that can be done routinely to help you identify issues with your lagoon and prevent some of those effluent violations before they show up on your DMR. So it's another great educational resource for improving long-term compliance. And for a more comprehensive guide on lagoon wastewater systems, EPA has a 457-page manual on the principal design and operation of wastewater treatment ponds. It's a lot more comprehensive, but it does cover detailed information about these different types of wastewater lagoon systems. It includes a lot of figures and schematics to help you understand flow patterns, detention time, and how pond depth and sludge accumulation does affect treatment and nutrient removal. So it is a little bit older, and it doesn't necessarily include some of the more recent or modern hybrid modification, but the vast majority of the technical information is still relevant today. And again, if you're having troubleshooting issues and you just need a comprehensive manual on lagoons, this is a great one to just it's a great resource to have in hand and just to find a little bit more information about your lagoon system. Here are two additional more O&M focused resources from states. One is from Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and one is from Montana DEQ. But these are both manuals on how to operate and maintain your lagoon system. Both of them kind of walks you through some of that math involved for calculating detention time, discharge volume and dilution ratios, which can help you with whenever you're releasing or discharging wastewater. It also discusses it includes chapters on sampling and laboratory testing, making sure that your sampling data is accurate and compliant. And both of these does include a lot of process control diagrams to help you visualize some of the operational maintenance steps that should be followed to improve compliance. And both of them, they're written for their respective states, but again, the information covered is widely standard and applicable to all systems. So it's a great reference for operators, and especially the Montana DQ one. It's written in a way to prepare wastewater operators for the certification exam. So if you're have an operator that's planning for certification, I'm sure some of the other privacy agencies might have their own manual, but the DQ one's a really great manual to again helps you understand some of those math problems and some of those tools required to make sure that your system is in compliance. Here are two more EPA webinars that I wanted to highlight that guides operators on facultative and area lagoon troubleshooting and compliance issues. The first one listed on the slide is on the facultative lagoons, and it outlines a structured approach to troubleshooting and improving lagoon systems. It demonstrates how interpond sampling reviewing historical compliance data, again, from EPA's ECHO database, as well as targeted field measurements can be used to track system performance and help identify operating conditions that can lead to violations. And it does also include detailed reviews of Lagoon issues, making it a great resource for, again, understanding how these facultative lagoons operate and how to best go about improving compliance and optimizing the system. And the aerated lagoon webinar also follows similar structures. It outlines how you can use the historical data, intrapond sampling to figure out best ways to improve how aeration is done. It also includes low cost operational adjustments operators can make to troubleshoot some of the nutrient control issues um, and coliform issues. So I definitely highly recommend both webinars. As the speaker for both of these, he's a very passionate expert in the field and really does a great job keeping you engaged. So even if they're both 2 hour long webinars, but the speaker's very he, he keeps the energy high and he does a really good job at explaining some of these issues. So these are 2 great Lagoon focused webinars that will help you optimize and manage those compliance issues. The next 3 resources are fact sheets that EPA developed along with Wisconsin DNR. They're a lot more shorter and Wisconsin specific, but again, the listed best practices are still relevant for all lagoon systems that are located especially in similar colder climates. So the first one listed is the seasonal turnover in Wisconsin's wastewater treatment lagoon guide, which outlines, what happens during seasonal turnover events when temperature-driven mixing disrupts normal lagoon conditions. It walks through common signs of turnover, how to identify when that's happening, and what to do when turnover, or how to manage your system when turnover happens to avoid accidentally discharging more nutrients than you should be. Um, and the second fact sheet is controlling plants in Wisconsin's wastewater treatment lagoon. So this is another fact sheet where it helps you identify and manage some of that excessive aquatic and shoreline vegetation that commonly show up in lagoon systems. Highlights how plants like algae and duckweeds, cattails, or submerged vegetation can support treatment, but also lead to compliance issues if they're overgrown. And it includes outline strategies like mechanical removal, routine shoreline maintenance, and appropriate use of chemical control. So again, if you have a lot of vegetation issues, this is a great fact sheet to kind of get started on what to look for and what to do. And the third fact sheet they have is the sludge removal for Wisconsin's wastewater treatment lagoons, which outlines best practices for preparing for sludge removal. It actually outlines a structured framework, or which is like a 3 to 5 year planning roadmap, which includes best practices as well as tasks for sludge removal. So it includes stuff like sludge depth surveys, how to inspect your infrastructure, coordinating with your state regulator, and planning any kind of funding that might need it for these dredging projects. So it's not overly technical, but it does provide a lot of great guidance for planning your future dredging projects. But for more guidance on sludge removal, EP does have a understanding lagoon requirements under 40 CFR Part 503 guide, which helps understand the federal requirements and best management practices for lagoon sludge removal, land application, and disposal. And it highlights some of those similar structured framework for planning lagoon sludge removal and land application. So it's a great reference to staying compliant when you're planning some of those desludging projects. CDAC, or the Energy Sense Resilience Center at U of I, has done several webinars highlighting energy efficiency recommendations for wastewater treatment plants and lagoons. And here are 2 that, again, focus on lagoon systems specifically. But the first one is control strategies for aeration, which focus on outlining how lagoon systems can optimizing aeration and mixing to improve treatment performance while also reducing energy costs. It includes practical strategies like targeted air rate replacement, taper aeration, and separating mixing from oxygen delivery, all of which can help systems operate more effectively. The second webinar shows how lagoon systems can use automation and remote monitoring to reduce some of those operator workloads. So like it highlights real-world automation examples like using smart VFDs, remote telemetry, or SCADA at lagoons and lift stations, using automated aeration control and just tracking motor runtime and amperage to identify if there's high energy use, maybe there's something wrong with your system that's causing your motors to run higher. So great, both of them are great webinars that kind of highlight how you can optimize some of these lagoon systems either by using SCADA or improving aeration processes or aeration control. So since a lot of these compliance best practice to also include some of those routine inspections of lagoons. I did want to include some kind of guide that highlights how to best perform a lagoon inspection. But the first one I have listed on here is a 6 minute video recording from Water Movement, which is a nonprofit based out of Canada. But this it highlights an operator, highlights an actual lagoon system, and the operators will provide a guided walkthrough of what they're looking for whenever they do a routine inspection. So they'll start at the inflow or an influent, and they follow the flow throughout an entire lagoon system, highlighting observable indicators like that should be routinely checked, like what the water color is, what they indicate, whether there's an odor issue, where to check for odors, how to check for foam or floating material, what to look for vegetation growth, sludge accumulation, and how to identify signs of short circuiting. So it's a great short video that kind of gives you a general idea of what you should be looking for whenever you're doing a routine inspection. And for more information on Lagoon sampling and compliance, Lagoon University, which is again hosted by Triple Point Environmental, they held a webinar on this topic, which is the second resource I have on the slide. But it provides best practices such as sampling early in the day or late in the day, avoiding sampling during or shortly after rain events, pulling samples deeper in the water column to reduce algae interference, just best practices for sampling to reduce some of those compliance issues that might happen from your current standard sampling practices. Another useful resource that I found was a guidance on evaluating wastewater lagoon seepage rates. So part of what I was interested in is like these liners could fail, groundwater can see, or wastewater can seep through lagoons, contaminating groundwater. So managing some of those, understanding seepage rate is a great way to make sure that you're not necessarily contaminating your local groundwater. Idaho is actually one of the few states that require routine seepage tests. So they have a guidance on that, helps you understand how to calculate some of those seepage rates. And they also have a Excel spreadsheet tool that can help operators calculate and record seepage results. So if you're looking for a guide on understanding how to calculate seepage rates, or maybe that's something that you want to start looking into, Idaho DEQ has some great information listed on their webpage. And I did mention a lot of these newer, modern, innovative processes that can help improve nutrient and lagoon systems. You might have heard like micro or nano bubble diffusers that are becoming a lot more used in wastewater treatment plants. ISTC, or the Illinois System Technology Center, they have a short fact sheet on how micro bubble diffusion aeration was used at a wastewater lagoon in Henry in Illinois. So it's a great case study that highlights how some of these newer technologies or how upgrades to these aeration systems can lead to better oxygen transfer efficiency, reduce energy use, and how it can improve treatment performance. The fact sheet includes how current systems can be retrofitted to use microbubble systems if they want to install into existing ponds, as well as cost, some of those equipment sizing and placement considerations. So if you're looking for more information on some of these hybrid technologies or these innovative technologies or upgrades you can use to improve your treatment performance, looking at case studies like these can be beneficial to understand how effective they are. And for if you're looking for more information on modern innovative technologies, EPA did award two grants to West Virginia University and Michigan Technological University in the past couple of years using the innovative water technology lagoon wastewater system small communities grants to help um, uh, support projects that would help lagoon systems better with their compliance. So both of these universities, or they looked at cost treatment technologies like construction of wetlands or nature-based systems, and looked at how effective they are, especially in colder climates, in treating lagoon wastewater to meet compliance. So if you're interested in these, checking out some of their project reports can give you an idea of how floating wetlands or some of those nature-based solutions can be a potential solution for your system. And West Virginia University, they actually developed for EPA a interactive mapping tool called the Sustainable Nutrient Management Opportunities for Small Communities with Lagoon Wastewater Systems. It includes a GIS map of all the lagoon systems that are, but not all, but like the public owned treatment works, lagoon systems that are throughout the country, and it gives you information on what technology they use, what treatment technology they use, as well as what lagoon add-ons technologies they implemented. So if you want to kind of get a general idea of within your state or within your region what add-on hybrid technologies lagoons are using, like SHER or MBBR or fine bubble diffusers. This interactive mapping tool can kind of help you see what other states are doing. So I'm running out of time, but basically those were some of the resources I kind of want to highlight today. There are a lot more out there, but I'll quickly give you a demo of our website just to show you how you can search for similar information. So like I mentioned, wateropera.org is our website. It is also our URL, and this is how the front page of our website looks like. There is no login or sign in required. You can just get on the website and access all the tools on that our website offers. So to start off, I'll do a demo of our resource library. But to get to our resource library tool, you should see the resource library menu option at the top. If you hover your cursor over it, you see this pop-up show up. On the right side, there is a search for documents or a document search option. If you click on either options, it will take you to our resource library page, which looks like this. Or you can simply bookmark that URL for the documents page, and it will take you straight to that page. But you should see this gray search module once you get onto this page. There's three areas that users can interact with. The first is the select drop-down menu. The second is the keyword filter, and the third is the retrieve documents button. So the select drop-down menu, that or some of the standard filters that you can interact with. So on the document side, you'll have category, which is if you're looking for a specific category, which I highlighted in that pie chart earlier, the 30 plus water wastewater related category. So if you're looking for information on wastewater treatment, you can just select that specific category. You can also search by type. If you're looking for a specific type of documents or resource, are you looking for like a video recording? Are you looking for a shorter fact sheet? Are you looking for a lengthier manual? Are you looking for and the third filter is state. So if you're looking for like a specific document from a specific state agency, you might want to choose state. Or if you're looking for case studies that highlight studies done in a certain state, using that state filter can help you narrow down your search to those kind of individual state focused resources. And host is the organization that hosted the actual document. So if you know that you're looking for like an EPA document, you can choose EPA and it will just show you EPA documents. But if you click on it, once you have your filter set, you can click on retrieve documents and it'll actually run the search. If there are some terms that aren't showing up on some of these pre-given filters, you can enter that into the keyword filter to also search for extra using unique keywords as well. So let's say we want to search for Lagoon compliance related resource. We can first try using the category filter and selecting wastewater treatment as a filter. So if you select the category option under the select drop-down menu, you will see a new drop-down show up under it with those water wastewater focused topics. And as shown in the screenshot, if you scroll through the list, you will eventually see what wastewater treatment as an option. And if you click on it, it will tell you, it will highlight it in blue to show you that you have selected it. If you click retrieve documents, it will actually run the search. So in this case, as we expected, there's over 2,800 documents related to wastewater treatment. That's way too much to go through. But if you look at the search module now, you see that there's a second drop-down menu that you can interact with. So you can add an additional filter, or from here, you can add like a specific keyword to kind of help narrow down your search more. But in this case, let's say we wanted to find a resource specifically from US EPA, in which case you can click on the select drop-down menu, add host as the second filter, scroll down to select US EPA, click on retrieve documents again, and it will refine your search. Now we're down to 400 documents. That's still a lot to go through, but it is a little bit more, and you can start going through the different pages. But if you want to, you can also add a third filter now. And let's say in this case we want to find like a more one of the manuals that we just that I highlighted earlier. In which case, we can select type as a third filter and choose manual handbooks from the list, and it will find your search just down to 32, which is much more manageable to actually search through the search result. So, and if we start going through the search results, we can eventually find the troubleshooting manual from EPA that we covered earlier, troubleshooting manual for small facultative partial mix aerated or complete mix aerated wastewater lagoons. But if we look at the individual search results, you'll see that each result includes a link to a resource, which is in the title, a summary of the resource. Again, it's a 49-page manual designed to help operators of small lagoon systems identify causes of lagoon upset conditions. So again, it gives you kind of a general summary to help understand what exactly the resource is. We also include a link to the repository. So if you want to find similar resources or page where we found this information, you can click on that to find more information. And in this case, it leads you back to the EPA's compliance wastewater operators page. So if you're looking for other compliance related resource, you might want to check out that repository page. And if we click on the title itself, it'll open up the pop-up, linking you straight to the document from the host organization. So you can actually download it, look at it, and print it if you want to from this page. But again, we're linking it straight to the EPA. We're not trying to take credit. We're just, again, guiding you to this document that exists somewhere else. I did also mention that we do have a nationwide events calendar tool as well, which operators can use to search for training opportunities offering CU. So I wanted to quickly demo that as well. So once again, this is our homepage. You can access our calendar page by selecting on the event calendar option at the very top, highlighted in the red box. But if you get to the page, you should, but when you get to the calendar page, you should see a similar gray search module, but with an empty calendar on the bottom. In this page, or in this tool, there's two things that you can interact with. The select drop-down menu similar to the document side on the left side, as well as a unique keyword text box. As long as you choose any of the filters, it will automatically populate the calendar. So you don't have, there's no compile or run calendar option. You just have to enter a keyword, choose a filter, and it will populate the calendar. Similarly, if you click on the select drop-down menu, you'll see the 4 filter options: category, which is the 30 plus water wastewater categories we looked at earlier. Type, in this case, it'll be the event type. Are you looking for a training? Are you looking for a webinar? Are you looking for a certification exam? Are you looking for like a conference? You can choose specific training type using type. You can also choose by state. So if you're looking for training events happening in a certain state, which most operators are because they're looking to renew their credits within their state, or if they're looking for a training that offers CUs in a specific state, you can choose the state filter to identify that. And sponsor, which is the actual organization that's hosting the training. So for this example, since we're in Illinois, if you we can see what kind of events are currently available in Illinois by clicking on state, choosing Illinois, and as you can tell, it will populate the calendar. The screenshot is currently only showing the month of May, but you can also switch between different months by clicking on the next and the previous arrow month options located on the side of the calendar module. You might notice that some of these events are full names, some of them are acronyms of organizations. If there are more than 3 events happening a day, we do shorten it just to make the calendar less cluttered. But if you hover your cursor over each of those names, it'll give you the full name of the event. But let's say we wanted to refine our search a little bit more because there was way too much events. We can add a second filter category. In this case, let's choose wastewater treatment again, similar to the documents demo. And now we've refined our calendar down to just training events happening in Illinois that is focused on wastewater treatment. And if you actually look through the calendar, the first thing I noticed was this in May, on May 20, Illinois Rural Water Association, they're hosting a course on DMR, sample testing, and sludge management in Centralia. At first, it's not relevant. Then it doesn't necessarily tell you that it's for Lagoon, but if you're looking for information on DMR, that might be an event that you might be interested in. You can also click on the view list option on the right side of the calendar to bring up a pop-up that shows all the training in a single list right on the calendar view, so it's a little bit easier to see. It does show you the full title. It does tell you the city as well as the state and the sponsor that's hosting training, so it's a little bit easier to look for all the events that are happening. But again, I do have this Illinois Rural Water DMR training highlighted. If this was a training that you're interested in, you can click on the title, either from the list view or the calendar view, and it will bring up a pop-up giving you a little bit more information about the event. Start date, city, location, the link to register, as well as the details. So in this case, in the details, it says topics include sample handling DMRs, smoke testing municipal systems, as well as sludge management for lagoon systems. So if you're a lagoon system and you're looking to learn a little bit more about sludge management, or if you're looking for a free event, as well as an event that offers credits for Illinois operators, this might be an event that you might want to check out in May. So again, it helps you again find out some of those trainings I might not know is happening. It gives you all the details in a single place. And just to humor myself, there are a lot more webinar live online trainings opportunities out there since COVID happened. You can also search by just webinar live online as the type to find those online training opportunities. And I threw in Lagoon as a keyword just to see what might pop up. There are 2 trainings in May. These are online trainings. One is from ESPN, seasonal challenges for summer operations of wastewater lagoons. And there's also a Wisconsin Rural Water Association event on biological treatment, ponds, lagoons, and natural systems. So if you're looking for another free event, free webinar, you might want to check out the EFC webinar, or if you're a operator in Wisconsin and you're looking for a little more credits on lagoon for trainings on lagoon systems, you might want to check out this Wisconsin Rural Water Association, as that one does cost money, but does offer credits for Wisconsin operators. But if you click on either of those, it will give you more of that information as well. So that concludes the demo of the calendar and the resource library tool. If you do have trouble finding certain resource or certain training events, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to help you and find certain events that fits your schedule, fits your criteria, as well as study guides to certification exam, just any kind of information that you might be looking for. We'll be more than happy to help you find that. Now, to finish off this presentation, I just want to briefly go over some of the additional resources we offer. So we do have a blog page where we regularly post recent events, referencing some of the publications that we've added into our documents. Here's a blog post from 2019 on lagoons. We haven't done one on lagoon in a while, but we will probably start doing a lot more since now that we've done this webinar. But you can find some of the relevant events, relevant information that's happening in the water and wastewater industry. We also have a newsletter 3 newsletters that we send out every 2 weeks or on a monthly basis. We have one that's mostly operator focused. We have one on innovative technologies for water and wastewater treatment, and we also have one on tribal systems. If you're trying to stay up to date with what's currently current events, upcoming free events, as well as again recently published material, I definitely recommend you signing up for a regular water operator newsletter, because we send that every 2 weeks, and we do include a lot of great information on there, as well as like funding opportunities, and a lot of great information. So if you're interested, you can get to our newsletter page by clicking on the newsletter option of the menu bar. You can sign up for them here, as well as see our past issues. And very quickly, I did want to touch on our self-paced training classes that we offer. So we're not a training provider ourselves. We are trying not to compete with training providers, but we do have several trainings that does offer credits for operators and is useful. Our groundwater and well care class is our most popular class. It's free, online, self-paced, and it can help operators better understand how to maintain and take care of their groundwater wells. But if you're wastewater operators, you're probably be more interested in the basic cybersecurity measures for water and wastewater systems, as well as source water protection in Massachusetts. They were both developed by for Mass DEP in collaboration with the University of Massachusetts Amherst, but the information covered is general, especially the cybersecurity one, and it does include a lot of great information. A lot of states reached out to us to develop something similar for their own state. So if you're trying to improve cybersecurity, this is a great self-paced course that you can check out. So that concludes my presentation for today. If you do get a chance to use wateropera.org and run into any questions, please feel free to contact me or my supervisor, Steve Wilson. Our emails and phone numbers are shown here, or if you scroll to the bottom of our website, you can find our contact information there as well. And if you would like a copy of the presentation, again, feel free, so you can actually easily access some of the links I covered today, feel free to email me or Steve, and we'll get you a copy of that presentation to you later today. Yeah, so at this time, I guess I'd like to answer any kind of questions you may have. Jennifer, do you have any questions from the audience?
The main question that came in throughout your presentation is, will the PowerPoint or slide deck be available? And I recommended they email one of us. info@wateroperator.org is the easiest one in order to get a copy of that.
Perfect. Yes, and if you have future questions, feel free to send an email again to our info@wateroperator.org. Especially if it's even more technical, I just don't hesitate. Even if we can't answer it, we will reference that to our RCAP TAP partners that have a lot more experience with lagoon systems. They'll be able to answer some of those more technical questions. So again, just if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to us. We'll help you get you connected to the right person that can help you answer that question, or help you find resources that'll help you answer some of the questions you might have. All right, well, at this time, I know we're over, so I'd like to go ahead and conclude this presentation. Again, thank you for sitting on this webinar, and I hope everyone has a nice rest of your day. Thank you.